The day he stopped defending himself, everyone thought he lost. They laughed. They whispered. They said, "He has no answer." But what they didn't understand was this: silence is not weakness, it is a weapon. And that day, he picked it up. He used to argue. He used to explain. He used to prove. Every insult felt like a challenge. Every accusation felt like a battlefield. He thought winning meant speaking louder. He thought strength meant responding immediately. Until the day he realized something that changed everything. The people who talk the most are often trying to hide the most. It started in a small meeting room, 10 people sitting around a table, bright lights, cold air, colder faces. They were questioning him, not because he was wrong, but because he was different. You think you're smarter than us? So now you're the expert? That idea will fail. The words weren't criticism, they were ego, and normally he would fight back. But that day, he didn't. He just looked at them, calm, unshaken, and said nothing. The room grew uncomfortable, because when you argue, you give people energy, but when you stay silent, you make them face themselves. One of them smirked. See, he has no answer. But inside, he was observing. He was calculating. He was growing. That night, he didn't rant. He didn't text friends to complain. He didn't post a passive-aggressive quote online. He went home, sat alone, and asked himself one brutal question. Why am I trying to win arguments instead of winning my life? That question burned, because the truth hurt. He had been addicted to being right, addicted to proving people wrong, addicted to defending his ego. And ego is expensive. It costs focus, it costs energy, it costs peace, and sometimes it costs destiny. The next week, the same people tried again, same tone, same mocking smiles. You're too quiet these days. Lost your confidence? This time, he smiled. Not fake, not sarcastic, just calm. Because he understood something now. When people provoke you, they are testing your emotional control. And emotional control is power. They wanted a reaction. They didn't get one. They pushed harder. Still nothing. And something strange began happening. The louder they became, the smaller they looked. You see, arguments are noise, but results are thunder. He stopped explaining his vision. He started building it. He stopped correcting rumors. He started creating proof. He stopped fighting for respect. He started becoming undeniable. Weeks passed. Silence, work, discipline. No announcements, no debates, no validation seeking. Just progress. People started noticing, not because he told them, but because they felt it. His posture changed. His voice slowed. His reactions disappeared. He wasn't avoiding conflict. He had outgrown it. One afternoon, someone confronted him again. "Why don't you ever respond? Don't you care what people say?" He looked straight into their eyes, and for the first time, he answered, softly, "I care about where I'm going more than where you think I am." That sentence ended the conversation, but it started something bigger. Respect. Not forced, not demanded, earned. But here's where it gets interesting. Silence is powerful, but it is also lonely. Because when you stop arguing, you also stop fitting in. You stop entertaining drama. You stop participating in chaos. And people who live in chaos will feel threatened by your calm. They will say you changed. They will say you became arrogant. They will say you think you're better. But growth always looks like ego to people who refuse to grow. And that realization, it hurt him. He lost some friends, lost some invitations, lost some comfort, but he gained something rare, clarity. He realized something brutal. You don't win by defeating people. You win by defeating your need to defeat people. Let that sink in. The strongest person in the room is not the one who speaks the loudest. It's the one who controls himself the most. Months later, the project they mocked succeeded, massively. The idea they laughed at became the standard. And suddenly, the same people who questioned him started asking him for advice.
He didn't remind them. He didn't say, "I told you so." He didn't replay old arguments, because by then he wasn't competing anymore. He had moved to another level. And that's when he truly won. Not when they apologized, not when they admitted he was right, but when he no longer needed them to. But this is only the surface, because the real battle was not in that meeting room. It was inside him. The urge to react, the urge to defend, the urge to shout back. Every time someone insulted him, his mind screamed, "Say something." But he trained himself. Pause, breathe, observe, respond only if necessary. And sometimes the most powerful response is none. Let me ask you something. How many battles are you fighting right now that don't even matter? How many arguments are draining your focus? How much energy are you wasting trying to correct people who have already decided to misunderstand you? He understood something most people never do. Not every attack deserves a defense. Not every opinion deserves your time. Not every accusation deserves your explanation. Because when you explain yourself to small minds, you shrink your own. Silence is not surrender. It is selection. You are choosing peace over pride, purpose over provocation, vision over validation. And here's the twist. The more he stopped reacting, the more control he gained. Control over emotions, control over time, control over outcomes. And control is the foundation of power. But something unexpected happened next. Someone tried to destroy his reputation, not through confrontation, but through whispers, rumors, doubt. And this time, silence felt dangerous. This time, it wasn't just his ego on the line, it was everything he built. And for a moment, he almost broke his rule. He almost defended himself. He almost exposed everything. But then he remembered. If you respond to every dog that barks, you'll never reach your destination. So he stayed silent and did something smarter. He let his consistency speak. Day after day, calm, focused, unbothered. And slowly, the noise died, because lies need attention to survive, and he starved them. That was the real victory, not proving them wrong, but refusing to play the game, because the game was never designed for him to win. It was designed to distract him.
Because now the story stops being about meetings and starts becoming about survival. Winning outside is easy. Winning inside? That's war. After the success, after the quiet respect, after the silent rise, something strange began to happen. The noise outside had faded, but the noise inside grew louder. At night, when the world slept, his mind didn't. It replayed every insult, every laugh, every moment he stayed silent, and a voice whispered, maybe they were right. Success didn't erase doubt. It amplified pressure. Now people expected more. Now eyes were watching. Now failure would be louder. And this time, there would be no room to explain. Because he had built a reputation on silence. He couldn't suddenly become defensive. He had created an identity. Calm. Controlled. Unshaken. But inside, storm. You see, when you stop arguing with the world, you start confronting yourself. No distractions, no noise, no emotional drama to hide behind. Just you and your truth. One evening, he stood alone in his apartment. Lights off. City glowing outside the window. And for the first time, he admitted something he never said out loud. I'm tired. Not physically, mentally, emotionally. Tired of always holding it together. Tired of always acting unaffected. Because silence requires strength, but strength without release becomes weight. He had mastered control, but he hadn't mastered healing. And that difference almost broke him. A close friend confronted him one day. You've changed. Not accusing, not mocking, just observing. You don't talk anymore. He almost responded with logic, with philosophy, with the disciplined answer. But instead, he paused. And for once, he was honest. I don't know who listens to understand and who listens to react. That was the real fear. When you've been misunderstood enough times, you start guarding your voice. You become selective, careful, measured. And while that protects your peace, it can also isolate you. Weeks passed. He grew quieter, not just in arguments, in life. He stopped sharing dreams, stopped sharing struggles, stopped asking for support, because strength meant independence. Until one night, everything cracked. A major setback hit. Unexpected, unfair, painful. The kind that makes you question everything. This time there were no critics mocking, no room full of ego, just him and failure. And silence felt different now. It wasn't powerful. It was heavy. He sat on the floor, back against the wall, breathing hard, heart racing. And for the first time in months, he wanted to scream. Not at people, at life. Because silence in victory feels strong, but silence in defeat feels lonely. And that's when he faced the real question. Was he silent because he was strong, or because he was afraid to be vulnerable? That question hit harder than any insult ever did. He realized something painful. He had stopped arguing with others, but he had also stopped expressing himself completely. He had confused emotional control with emotional suppression, and those are not the same. Control is power. Suppression is pressure, and pressure eventually explodes. He stood up that night, not confident, not heroic, just honest. He called someone, not to defend, not to impress, just to say, I'm not okay. And something unexpected happened. Nothing collapsed. No one saw him as weak. No respect was lost. In fact, connection returned. Because true strength isn't silence in every situation. It's knowing when to speak and when not to. That was the evolution. He didn't argue back, but he also didn't disappear. He learned balance. When attacked by ego, silence. When facing truth, honesty. When dealing with noise, ignore. When dealing with pain, express. And slowly, he rebuilt himself. Stronger, but softer. Disciplined, but human. He went back to work, not with rage, not with something to prove, but with purpose. This time, he wasn't trying to win. He was trying to grow. People noticed again, but differently. There was depth in him now. Not just calm, wisdom. Because anyone can stay silent when things are easy. But staying grounded when life shakes you? That's mastery. And then, the same person who once mocked him approached quietly. Not aggressive, not sarcastic, just curious. How do you stay so calm? He smiled slightly, because they still misunderstood. Calm is not the absence of chaos. It's control within chaos. He answered, I choose my battles. That was it. No lecture, no superiority, just truth. But here's the part most people will never see. He still feels anger sometimes, still feels misunderstood, still feels the urge to respond. He didn't become emotionless. He became selective. And that difference changed his destiny. Because reacting is automatic. Responding is intentional. And silence, when chosen intentionally, becomes
becomes strategy. He didn't argue back. That's when he won. Not because the world changed, but because he did. But the story isn't finished, because the final transformation happens when silence turns into legacy.
Years later, people only saw the success. They saw the results. They saw the influence. They saw the calm man who never reacted. But they never saw the nights he almost gave up. They never saw the battles he fought in silence. They never saw the version of him that wanted to scream, to defend, to prove. Because the loudest wars are invisible, and the strongest victories are private. By now, he understood something most people never learn in a lifetime. You don't win when they clap for you. You win when you no longer need them to. There came a day when a young man approached him after a talk, eyes restless, jaw tight, pride wounded. "They disrespect me," the young man said. "I can't stay quiet. If I don't answer back, I look weak." He saw himself in that face, the old version, the reactive one, the one addicted to being right. He didn't respond immediately. He let the silence stretch, not to intimidate, but to teach. Then he said slowly, "If someone throws mud at you, and you throw it back, who gets dirty?" The young man frowned. "But if I say nothing, they win." He shook his head gently. "No, they win when they control your emotions." And that was the truth he had paid for with years of growth. Power is not domination. Power is self-mastery. The world teaches you to fight every battle, but the wise learn to choose only the ones that build them. He remembered the moment that changed everything, that meeting room, those mocking smiles, that decision to say nothing. Back then, he thought he was just avoiding conflict, but now he realized he was redirecting energy. Every argument he didn't enter became focus. Every insult he didn't answer became fuel. Every rumor he ignored became discipline. And over time, that discipline became destiny. Because here's what most people don't understand. When you argue, you divide your power. When you stay grounded, you multiply it. Silence gave him clarity. Clarity gave him strategy. Strategy gave him results. And results silenced everyone else. But the deepest transformation wasn't external. It was internal. He no longer felt the urge to prove. He no longer felt threatened by opinions. He no longer measured himself by applause or criticism. He measured himself by alignment. Am I becoming who I said I would become? That question replaced every argument. That focus replaced every distraction. There was one final test, a public attack, louder than before, bigger platform, more eyes watching. This time, people waited. They expected a response, a statement, a counterattack. But he remembered something powerful. When you are climbing mountains, you don't stop to argue with people throwing stones from the bottom. So he kept climbing. No reaction, no explanation, just elevation. And something incredible happened. The higher he went, the smaller the noise became. Because distance shrinks criticism, growth dissolves drama, and success answers questions better than words ever can. One day someone asked him, "Don't you ever feel like proving them wrong?" He smiled. "I focus on proving myself right." That was the shift. Not revenge, not ego, not dominance, alignment. And that's when it became bigger than him. People started changing around him, not because he preached, but because he embodied control. His silence forced others to confront their noise. His calm exposed their chaos. His restraint revealed their insecurity. Without saying a word, he was teaching, and that is the highest level of winning. when your life becomes the message. He understood something deeply now. Arguing feeds the moment. Discipline feeds the future, and he chose the future. Always. There will always be people who misunderstand you. Let them. There will always be people who doubt you. Let them. There will always be people who try to provoke you. Let them. Because the real question is not what they say, it's what you build. Every minute you spend defending your name is a minute stolen from building it. Every reaction you give away is control you surrender, and control is everything. He didn't become silent because he had nothing to say. He became silent because he had something bigger to build. And when the building was complete, the world heard him without him speaking. That's the irony. The quiet ones are often the most powerful, not because they lack fire, but because they direct it inward, refine it, strengthen it, aim it, and when they finally move, it shakes everything. So if they mock you today, stay steady. If they misunderstand you, stay focused. If they try to pull you into arguments, stay disciplined. You don't need to attend every fight you're invited to. You don't need to correct every lie. You don't need to win every conversation. Win your mind, win your habits, win your consistency, and life will handle the rest. Because the ultimate victory is peace, the ultimate strength is control, and the ultimate revenge is success without bitterness. He didn't argue back. That's when he won. Not because the world bowed, but because he mastered himself. And once you master yourself, no one can defeat you. The next time someone tries to provoke you, pause, breathe. Ask yourself, is this building my future or feeding my ego? Choose wisely, because silence, when chosen with intention, is not weakness, it is power waiting to speak through results. And when it finally does, no argument will ever be louder than your life.